I never thought I'd poison my own father's legacy with a single sentence. But there I was, microphone in hand, the words burning like acid on my tongue. The room full of silk-suited strangers and half-drunk relatives froze as I said it, their champagne flutes hovering midair like fragile accusations. And Dad? He didn't just drop his glass. He shattered the lie we'd all been living for 15 years. Right there on the polished oak floor of the Grand Hyatt in downtown Chicago. It started, like most American family implosions, with a promise I was too young and too loyal to question. I was 16, all gangly limbs and big dreams, the kind of girl who believed in white picket fences and dads who fixed your bike on Saturdays. We lived in a split-level ranch house in the suburbs of Naperville, Illinois, close enough to the city for Dad's Wall Street wannabe deals to feel glamorous, far enough for the neighbors to pretend we were normal.
Dad.
Richard Rick Harlan was the king of that illusion. Charismatic as hell, with a salesman's grin and stories about rubbing elbows with Chicago Bulls players at charity galas. Mom had died when I was 8, breast cancer. Quick and cruel, so it was just us against the world. Or so he sold it. That summer, right after my junior year at Naperville North High, Dad came home late from one of his investments. His tie was crooked, eyes bloodshot, and there was this metallic tang in the air, like pennies left in the rain. He slumped into the kitchen chair, buried his face in his hands, and muttered, "Ivy, baby, I screwed up. Big time." Turns out, he'd been cooking the books at his firm, Harlan Financial Advisors, a mid-tier outfit peddling retirement plans to soccer moms and grill dads. Embezzlement, to the tune of $2.3 million. Not chump change, enough to land him in federal prison for a decade, maybe more. The feds were circling, subpoenas piling up like unpaid bills.
Skuld ved veran.
Called Aunt Linda. Or hell, even the cops. But Dad looked at me with those watery blue eyes, the same ones that convinced me monsters weren't real, and said, "You're my girl,
Ivy.
the only one who can fix this. If they take me down, they take everything. Your college, the house, us." He spun it like a fairy tale. I'd take the fall. A youthful mistake, he'd call it. Forged some docs, making it look like I'd siphoned the cash for prom dresses and college apps. Plead juvenile. Get probation. Community service. He'd go straight. Pay it back anonymously. It's temporary, he swore, crossing his heart like we were kids playing pretend. I'll make it right. For you. Stupid. Desperate love. I did it. Signed the confessions. Sat through the hushed hearings in that sterile DuPage County courtroom, the judge eyeing me like I was the next Lindsay Lohan. 6 months in Jervy, Cook County Juvenile Temporary Detention Center. A concrete hellhole where girls traded stories of absent dads like baseball cards. I came out tattooed with regrets. My scholarship to Northwestern yanked. My friends ghosting me faster than a bad Tinder date. Dad, he walked free. Consulting gigs in Florida. A new tan. And whispers of a girlfriend named Tiffany with extensions longer than her morals. He sent postcards. Proud of you,
Kiddo.
This made us stronger. 15 years later, I was 31, scraping by as a paralegal in a loop firm. The kind where partners yelled about billable hours over burnt coffee. I'd clawed my way back, no Ivy League shine, but a solid rep for digging up dirt on deadbeat dads in custody battles. Therapy helped, so did the bottle on Fridays. And then there was Mark. Steady Mark, with his Cubs hat and craft beer obsession. A high school history teacher who proposed on the bean at Millennium Park. Rain be damned. Our wedding was my middle finger to the past. June 14th, 2025. At the Grand Hyatt. 250 guests. A band playing Springsteen covers. I'd invited Dad out of some masochistic nostalgia. Closure, I told my bridesmaids. Bullshit. It was a test. Could the man who sold me out toast my future without flinching? The rehearsal dinner was a shit show waiting to happen. We'd rented out a rooftop spot overlooking the Chicago River. Fairy lights strung like nooses. Dad showed up in a seersucker suit 2 sizes too tight, arm in arm with a bleach blonde in her 40s, stepmom number 3. Or was it 4? Call me Candy, she purred. Her laugh like nails on chalkboard. Mark's family eyed them like they'd wandered off a Real Housewives set. Dad clapped Mark on the back too hard, sloshing his old-fashioned. Teaching history. Bet you got stories about girls like my Ivy, wild ones who learn the hard way. The table tittered awkwardly. I forced a smile, my knuckles white around my stemless glass. That night, alone in the hotel suite, I scrolled through old emails on my phone, Dad's frantic pleas from '09. The forged PDFs I'd buried in a thumb drive labeled college essays. Mark snored beside me, oblivious. I'd kept it from him. This skeleton in my walk-in closet. Water under the bridge, I'd say if it ever came up. But as the city hummed below, all neon and noise, I felt the bridge cracking. Revenge? I'd fantasized it 1,000 ways. Anonymous tip to the IRS. A viral Reddit AMA outing him as deadbeat dad of the decade. But those were barstool rants, not blueprints. Until the best man, my cousin Jake, the family wild card with a law degree and a grudge, pulled me aside at brunch the next day. Ivy. I found something, he whispered, sliding his phone across the booth at Wildberry Pancakes. Screenshots from a dark web forum, Dad's alias. River Atrick, bragging about a side hustle that sounded a lot like money laundering for Chicago's underbelly bookies. Not just the old embezzlement, ongoing. And get this, the original scam? He'd pinned it on Mom's memory, claiming she'd been the one skimming before she died. Lies on lies. Jake had been digging since Dad crashed his bar mitzvah with a stripper story. We expose him at the reception, he said, eyes gleaming like a co-conspirator in a Scorsese flick. Not vicious, truthful. Let the guests decide. My stomach twisted. Controversial? Hell yes. Dad had aged into a Silver Fox philanthropist, sponsoring Little League teams in Boca Raton, posting LinkedIn humble brags about giving back. Ruin that. And I'd be the villain daughter airdropping drama on her own big day. But the alternative? Swallow it again. Let him clink glasses with Mark's wholesome folks while I choked on the what-ifs. Do it, I said, voice steady as Lake Michigan fog. But make it count. The ceremony was a blur of vows and view of Clickwat, Mark's mom dabbing tears, my sorority sisters snapping pics for the gram. I walked down the aisle on Jake's arm. Dad relegated to a pew because tradition be damned. He caught my eye, winked like we shared a secret.
Bastard.
By the time we hit the reception, the ballroom was a swirl of crab cakes and classic rock, guests two-stepping to Sweet Caroline. Dad cornered me by the dessert table, his breath sour with bourbon. Look at you, Ivy girl. All grown up, snagging a keeper. Remember when you were 16, thinking you'd run off to Hollywood? Good thing you stayed grounded. He chuckled, loud enough for nearby tables to turn. Took some tough love.
Huh?
That little mishap with the money taught you responsibility. You're welcome. The words landed like a sucker punch. Mishap? He'd branded me a thief. Shipped me to juvie while he yacht clubbed his way to freedom. Heat flushed my cheeks, Mark. Sensing the vibe. Squeezed my hand under the table. Dad. I started. Voice low. Not here. But he wasn't done. Leaning in with that salesman leer. Come on. Lighten up. Weddings are for forgiving and forgetting.
Besides,
Who's gonna believe the prodigal daughter over the guy who built this family? Laughter rippled from his table, Candy's hyena cackle leading the pack. Guests shifted uncomfortably, but no one intervened. Classic American awkwardness, smile through the misogyny. Past the petit fours. That's when I nodded to Jake across the room. He was at the DJ booth, mic in hand, the best man speech slot we'd gifted him, now a loaded gun. The band faded out, spotlights swung lazy circles. Ladies and gentlemen, Jake boomed, all golden boy charm masking the venom. Before we cut the cake, a toast to family, the ones who shape us, for better or worse. He paused, eyes locking on Dad. Like Ivy's father, Rick Harlan, who taught her the value of truth by burying his own under a mountain of lies. Murmurs rippled like wind through cornfields. Dad's fork clattered against his plate. Jake held up his phone, projecting the screenshots onto a pull-down screen we'd rigged behind the head table. Blurry but damning. Chat logs. Wire transfers time-stamped to Dad's charity accounts. 15 years ago, Rick embezzled from his clients. But he didn't go down. No, he let his 16-year-old daughter take the fall. Juvie. Lost dreams. A life in the shadows. And it didn't stop there. River at Rick here? Still at it. Laundering cash for Southside Sharks.
oh,
And that widower's grief? He slandered his late wife to cover his tracks. The room detonated. Gasps. Whispers exploding into shouts. Mark's dad, a retired cop, stood halfway out of his chair. Candy's face went kabuki white. And Dad, oh.
God. Dad.
He surged to his feet, glass in hand, face purpling like overripe plums. This is bullshit. Lies from a spiteful kid. Then Jake dropped the hammer. Ask him about the life insurance payout for Mom's policy. The one he forged to fund his first getaway. Ivy paid for that mistake, too, with her childhood. Dad's glass slipped. It hit the floor in slow motion. Shards scattering like his alibis. Champagne fizzing into the rug like guilty tears. He staggered back, clutching the tablecloth, pulling it down in a cascade of silverware and half-eaten salmon. Guests surged, some toward him, others away. Phones out. Live streaming the Harlan family circus. I stood there in my lace gown, heart hammering, Mark's arm a steel band around my waist. Victory? It tasted like ash. Because in that chaos, I saw it, the flicker in Dad's eyes. Not just rage, but a plea. The same one from that kitchen night, all those years ago. The fallout hit like a Midwest blizzard, sudden, blinding, and impossible to shovel away. Security herded Dad out a side door before the tuxedoed uncles could form a posse. His protests dissolving into the hum of air conditioners. You'll regret this, Ivy. Blood's thicker than, but the door slammed, and poof, gone, leaving only the acrid scent of spilled booze and the metallic echo of betrayal ringing in my ears. The band struck up Live In on a prayer on Jake's cue, a desperate bid to salvage the dance floor, but the energy was poisoned. Guests clustered in huddles, sides forming like high school cliques, Team Harlan, his golf buddies, muttering about family business. Team Truth, Mark's relatives, nodding solemnly like they'd cracked the Watergate of weddings. And the neutrals, nursing drinks and plotting their exit speeches. Mark pulled me into the coat check alcove, his face a map of worry lines under the harsh fluorescence. Ivy, what the hell? You could have warned me. His voice wasn't angry. Mark didn't do angry. He did disappointed. The quiet kind that made you feel like you'd flunked ethics. I leaned against the wall, the beating on my dress digging into my spine like accusations. I thought I could bury it.
For us. But he
mocked me.
Mark.
Right there. In front of everyone. Like I was still that dumb kid he threw under the bus. Tears pricked. Hot and unwelcome. I swiped them away, smearing mascara like war paint. He cupped my face. Thumbs gentle. You're not that kid. But this? It's our wedding.
Our day.
And now it's trending on TikTok as Daddy Dearest drama. He wasn't wrong. By the time we snuck upstairs to change, my phone was a war zone. 147 notifications. Cousins demanding eggplant emojis, WTF? Sorority sisters flooding the group chat with popcorn gifs. Iconic takedown, one cheered. Harsh. Babe, blood's blood. Another countered. Jake texted a thumbs up. Nailed it. Feds tipped off, his accounts frozen by morning. Satisfaction curled in my gut, sharp as a switchblade, but it twisted with something darker. Guilt? Pity? Dad wasn't a monster. Not entirely. He'd raised me solo after Mom's chemo marathon. Microwaved mac and cheese at 2 a.m. During my braces-era heartbreaks. Cheered louder than anyone at my Juvie release barbecue. Irony much? The embezzlement? He'd called it survival mode. Firm was tanking post, 2008 crash. Clients jumping ship like rats. One white lie to keep the lights on. He'd rationalized in those late-night confessions. But white lies snowball into avalanches. And I'd been the one buried. We flew to Maui for the honeymoon on Delta's red eye. The kind with crying babies and recycled air that smelled like regret. Mark buried himself in a John Grisham paperback, pretending the seatback screen held his rapt attention. I stared out at the wing lights piercing thunderheads, replaying the shatter of that glass. Had I gone too far? The revenge was surgical, public enough to sting, legal enough to stick, but it left scars on everyone. Aunt Linda called mid-flight. How? Airplane mode my ass, Ivy. Your father's in custody. Miami PD picked him up at the airport. Laundering rings bigger than we thought, tied to some Windy City wise guys. Her voice cracked. The aunt who'd baked me apology cookies post-juvie.
He says he did it for you.
To give you the life he couldn't. Bullshit echo chamber. I hung up or tried, signal ghosts. And spent the next 8 hours drafting a statement in my notes app. Family secrets aren't gifts, they're grenades. Time to disarm. But posting it felt like kicking a man when he was down. Instead, I numbed out with pina coladas on Kaanapali Beach. The sand white-hot under my toes. Waves crashing like unresolved arguments. Mark thawed by day 3, snorkeling tours. Sunset hikes to the bamboo forest where he proposed a truce over poke bowls. I get it, he said, feeding me a shrimp like we were in some rom-com. Your dad's a prick. But you're Ivy Harlan Evans now. We build from here. Evans, his name. My armor. We made love that night to the hum of ukuleles from the luau below. Tentative, at first, then fierce, like reclaiming territory. Back in Chicago, Reality reasserted like a hangover. The firm put me on administrative leave. HR's polite way of saying, don't poison the water cooler with your soap opera. Mark's school buzzed. Parents pulling kids from history class. Whispering about the crooked dad-in-law. Jake. Bless his chaotic soul. Lawyered up pro bono. Feeding tips to the Sun-Times. Front page splash. Wedding crash. Tycoon dad's double life exposed by bride's vow. Dad's mugshot, disheveled. Cuffs glinting, stared out from the digital edition. Looking every bit the small-time schemer he'd always been. Candy bolted. Selling her side to a gossip pod. He was a dream till the demons came out.
Charming.
I visited him in Cook County Jail 2 weeks later. The fluorescent buzz and echoing shouts a grim déjà vu of my own stint. He shuffled in wearing an orange jumpsuit that clashed with his Florida tan, hands cuffed to a waist chain like some B-movie villain. Ivy, he rasped, voice gravel from disuse. No baby, no grin. Just hollow eyes. The kind that mirror your own fractures. You happy now? Ruined your own father on your big day. I gripped the receiver. Knuckles blanching. You ruined me first.
Dad.
Juvie wasn't a vacation. I lost everything, friends, future, faith in you. He leaned forward, chains rattling. I know.
God.
I know. But it was for us. The money. It paid for your therapy, your apartment deposit. And the new stuff? That was to fix the old mess. Pay back the clients. Anonymously. A loop closing.
Lies.
Or half-truths. The feds had wiretaps. Dad funneling laundered cash into a Harlan Legacy Fund. Scholarships for at-risk girls. Juvie grads like me. Misdirected redemption. Laundering good deeds with dirty money. You mocked me. I pressed. Voice steel. At the wedding. Like I was the joke. He winced. Real pain flickering. Fear.
Kiddo.
You were glowing.
And I
lashed out. Afraid you'd spill before I could confess. Plan 2. After the cake. Clean slate. A sob escaped him, muffled by the plexiglass. Forgive me, or at least understand. I hung up without answering, the click echoing like finality. But doubt wormed in. Had I stolen a shot at atonement? Polarizing. Jake called it over beers at the Berghoff. You're the hero.
Ives.
He's a snake shedding skins. Yet late nights, scrolling his LinkedIn frozen, but archived. I saw the eulogies from old clients. Rick gave me hope when bankruptcy loomed. Gray areas. American as apple pie laced with arsenic. The trial loomed like storm clouds over Lakeshore Drive. Federal court. Fall session. Dad's lawyer. A slick Fox News regular. Spun him as a flawed patriot. A man haunted by loss. Making amends in shadows. Prosecutors painted him as a predator. Preying on trust.
Me?
Subpoenaed as the star witness. My Juvie records unsealed like a bad divorce. Reporters camped our brownstone stoop. Mics thrusting like accusations. MS. Evans. Was the wedding revenge porn or justice served? Mark fielded them with teacherly calm. But crack showed late nights grading papers. Avoiding my eyes. Then the twist. 2 days before opening arguments. Jake burst into our kitchen. Laptop steaming. Holy shit. Ivy. Mom's policy? It wasn't forged. He pulled up digitized files from the insurer, scans of Mom's shaky signature. Dated weeks before chemo round 3. Dad hadn't faked it. She'd signed over double indemnity. Knowing the endgame. A letter tucked in the envelope. Rick, use it for Ivy. College. Dreams. Whatever keeps her flying. Love always.
Sarah.
My knees buckled. Mark caught me. Coffee spilling like fresh grief. Mom hadn't been slandered. She'd been the architect, sacrificing her safety net for mine. Dad's lie was omission, carrying that weight solo to shield me from her ghost. The revelation hit like a freight train through the loop, unstoppable, derailing everything I'd armored myself with.
Mom.
My sainted ghost, the one I'd idealized through Dad's rose-tinted anecdotes, had played the long game. Not just enduring cancer's siege, but strategizing her exit like a CEO closing a merger. That letter? It burned in my mind. Her looping script a lifeline I'd never known. Keep her flying. And Dad, he'd twisted it into his escape hatch. But at root, it was her directive. Hero? Villain? Or just two desperate souls juggling lit dynamite? I confronted Jake over Zoom from our breakfast nook, rain lashing the windows like judgment. You jumped the gun, I said, voice raw. We exposed half the story. He shrugged, unrepentant, his Tribeca loft a smug backdrop. Half's better than none. He's pleading out 10 years. Restitution. You got justice. Justice. The word curdled now, tainted as Dad's bourbon breath. The plea hearing was a circus minus the fun. Dirksen Federal Courthouse. Metal detectors beeping like accusatory heartbeats. I sat in the gallery, Mark's hand a sweaty anchor. As Dad shuffled in, shackles swapped for a cheap suit. No candy, no cronies, just a public defender with coffee stains and weary eyes. The judge, a no-nonsense black woman with a gavel like Thor's hammer. Read the charges. Wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy. Dad's statement was a monotone dirge. Guilty. Your Honor. I accept responsibility. No fireworks. No teary appeals. But when his gaze swept the room, it snagged on me pleading, not plotting. I looked away, throat tight. Outside, protesters clashed, victims' families with signs. Harlan stole our futures. A smattering of Boca expats chanting second chances. Pundits on CNN dissected it over cheer-ins. From wedding vow to courtroom, is vengeance the new American dream? Polarizing gold, social media ablaze. My handle at Ivy Harlan Truth a battlefield of blue check think pieces. Empowering takedown versus ruthless opportunism. No heroes. Just humans fumbling in the dark. In the end, they gave him 12 years, McKean Federal, upstate Pennsylvania. A white-collar spa with yoga and regrets. Restitution. $4.7 million. Crowdfunded from seized assets and that legacy fund, unraveled like cheap yarn. I didn't attend sentencing, sent a letter instead. Unsealed for the record. You broke us. But Mom's wings? They're mine now. Fly straight in there. Or don't bother writing. Childish? Maybe. But it was my mic drop. Closure wrapped in barbed wire. Life post-shatter settled into a gritty groove. Mark and I decamped to a Wicker Park 2-flat, the kind with creaky stairs and a view of hipsters biking to L stops. I quit the firm, too many whispers, not enough billables, and hung my shingle as a consultant for wrongful conviction nonprofits. Second chances for the framed, my tagline. Ironic, right? Jake partnered up. Our firm a revenge-fueled phoenix, Harlan and Voss, attorneys at retribution. We took pro bono cases, kids railroaded by crooked guardians, Wives gaslit by silver-tongued spouses. It paid in purpose, if not always in pasta nights without ramen. Dad wrote monthly, the envelopes postmarked with prison grit. At first, I shredded them unread, confetti for my compost guilt. But curiosity, or masochism, won. His scrawl was shaky, ink bleeding like confessions, tales of cell block chess games. A bunkmate named Tito schooling him on stoicism. Miss your laugh, Ivy girl. Remember the Cubs' '05 run? We danced in the street. Nostalgia bait. But laced with accountability, admissions of the forgery lie, he'd panicked. Post-mom's funeral. Forging a codicil to protect the payout from taxes. Stupid. Selfish. The laundering? A fix spiraling into addiction. Chasing the high of control. No excuses. Just echoes of that kitchen plea. I was drowning. Pulled you under instead. I replied sporadically, stiff at first. Thawing to tentative bridges. Shared Mark's promotion to department head. Our talks of kids, one. Maybe. With mom's curls. He sent clippings, his GED pursuit. A prison-lit mag poem about shattered glass. Metaphors, he joked in the margins. Forgiveness? Not yet. But understanding crept in, gray as Chicago winters. Mark grumbled over it, don't go soft, but he got it. In his history nerd way, people rewrite their narratives. Yours doesn't have to include his ending. The real twist dropped 6 months post-sentencing. Via a manila envelope from a Boca address, mom's lawyer. The old-school type with wingtips and whiskey breath. Inside, a sealed will. Dated her last lucid day. Not just the policy, everything. The house. The savings. A trust fund I'd never touched. Earmarked for Ivy's wings, unconditional. And a codicil. Handwritten if Rick falters. Expose him. Truth is your inheritance.
Love.
Not his secrets. She'd suspected his sleight of hand. The skimming starting as loans for her treatments. Planted the seeds, quiet audits with her attorney. A dead man's switch in the files. My revenge? Not mine at all. Hers. Proxy delivered through Jake's hack. He'd found the tip in her digitized notes. Buried in estate docs.
Mom.
The ultimate schemer. Two-faced in the kindest way. Flipping the script on her betrayer while shielding her girl. I sat on our fire escape that night. City lights blurring through tears. Mark inside strumming guitar like a folksy therapist. Heroic? Tragic? Mom's ghost high-fived me from the ether. Her sacrifice a grenade I'd lobbed without knowing. Dad's next letter acknowledged it. She always one-upped me. Deserved better. No apology could bridge that chasm, but it sparked the debate in therapy groups, bar stools, even our holiday dinners with Mark's clan. Was Ivy avenging? Or just the messenger? They'd argue. Forks pausing over turkey. No tidy bows. Life's too jagged for that. Happy ending? If reclaiming your narrative counts. Yemi? Building a firm that unmasks the ricks of the world. One shattered illusion at a time.
Beatgeek.
In the what-ifs, a family intact. Sans the fractures. But as the L train rumbled by, I chose the mess. It's American. After all, forged in fire. Toasted with broken glass. We visited Dad last spring, conjugal vibes minus the perks. Just a plexiglass divide and vending machine coffee. He looked smaller, grayer, but his grin? Intact. Salesman polish dulled to something real. Proud of you.
Kiddo.
Wings and all. I pressed my palm to the glass. He matched it. Chains forgotten. No words needed. The shatter had cleared the air, controversial, cathartic.
Ours.
And as we drove back into the sunset sprawl of I-80, Mark's hand in mine, I whispered to the wind, "Thanks,
Mom.
we got this."